So welcome to the NIHR Insight Engagement Programme for the West Midlands. The webinar today is presented by the University of Warwick Medical School, and the key aims for this webinar are the key challenges in the transition to research, for example, protected research time, support networks, links with practice, confidence, gaining the support of line managers and access to research facilities. So I'll now hand over to our presenters to introduce themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. So hi, everybody. My name's Mike Backhouse. I'm a podiatrist from the University of Warwick, and along with my colleague Jenny, we lead the Insight programme at the University of Warwick. And as you've heard, we've got a session today that will look at focusing on the transitions in a research career at the different stages and the challenges and the opportunities they present to get into research in more detail. We've also got some information on the Insight programme itself, which I will start to go through now. So if I just share my screen with you, hopefully everyone can see that okay. I'm getting a few nods, that's always reassuring. So yeah, as I say, we've got a bit of background on the Insight programme, and then we go on to our three speakers, Alison, Sandra and Kerry, who'll talk about different elements of the transitional journeys and the support that's available. And we'll end the session with a Q&A, which we can address any questions you've got about transitions or about the Insight programme itself. And we're joined by Professor Annie Topping, who leads the West Midlands programme and will be able to help with any queries about that. So what is the Insight programme? Well, as you're aware, it's an NIHR programme. It's national in terms of the funding, but then devolved into different regions across England. It has the three core aims to the programme you can see highlighted there. The main part is the research training, which is delivered through master's programmes, which are available through different universities within the region. Then there's the engagement programme, which is obviously this webinar is part of that. It's part of engaging with new people across the community, but also with the current Insight scholars. And then those Insight scholars form this consortium and mutual support network across the region, which is supported through the different universities which are partners. So who's eligible for the Insight programme? Well, it's a very broad range of professions that are eligible. And if you're registered in one of these professional or these registered bodies down the right of the screen, then you're eligible to be part of the Insight programme. If you're a doctor or a dentist, unfortunately, you're not eligible to be involved in the programme. But hopefully the other parts of the webinar will still be of interest. And also the Insight programme specifically focuses on early career professionals, so those within the first 5 years of their registration. But obviously there is leeway for those that have needed to take career breaks for health or caring reasons or work part-time and that sort of thing. So do get in touch if that's something to think about. So the programme itself provides tuition fees for the chosen programme, which obviously is a significant amount of money. But it also provides a tax-free stipend for the Insight Scholar, and you can see the figures there for full and part-time. And that's tax-free if it goes directly to the recipient, but it can also be used in some trusts to help backfill roles, and perhaps we'll hear a bit more about that later on. So if you're interested in applying for the programme, the details are there. There's a QR code that takes you to the form, and there's an initial but very short application form followed by an interview for the programme. But importantly, the Insight application is separate from the application to do the master's programme that you want to study. So you do need to make a separate application for that. And just to highlight that there's now quite a tight deadline there for applications for this year, the 24th of June. So if you are interested after this programme, then please do apply quickly and progress it. So, as I mentioned, in the West Midlands, the consortia that offers them the program is broad and covers the geographical spread of the region. You can see them listed there: Birmingham, Coventry, Kiel, Staffordshire, and Warwick, with the different programs that are on offer, covering quite a broad range of different opportunities here. So I'll now hand over to my colleague Jenny, who is going to tell you a bit more about the programs that are on offer through Warwick.
Thanks, Mike. So, hi everybody. I'm Jenny Harlock. I'm Associate Professor at Warwick University, and this is to just very briefly tell you about the programmes we have on offer at Warwick. I'm the course director for one of them, as well as leading the Insight programme. But just to say, all the courses that are on offer available through the programme are quite different. They all have a different structure, they have different strengths. So do have a look at all the courses that are available to see which is going to best suit your needs. In terms of Warwick, I know we're very much known as a research intensive university, but we're very proud and committed to our teaching as well. And we're really pleased to have been awarded the kind of triple gold in the recent National Student Survey in 2023 with gold outcomes for our student experience teaching and overall. So yeah, that was really pleasing. Can I have next slide, please, Mike? So very quickly, one of our programmes on offer is MRes in Health and Care. So this is a Masters of Research. So this is available as a full-time or part-time programme, 1 year full-time, 2 years part-time, and involves both face-to-face and online teaching. And the way this course is structured, it differs slightly from a traditional kind of standard MSc in the sense that it's more research focused and sort of independent learning focused. So the substantive part of a course is a dissertation where you'll be able to look in depth at a topic of your choice, something that interests you. And you will also undertake alongside that 3 taught modules from a menu. You can choose your taught modules which cover different types of research approaches. So you have that flexibility to kind of combine the modules that are going to most suit the area of research that you want to pursue. And as part of that, we very much encourage our students to try and publish from their dissertation. There's also an opportunity to present their dissertation to an expert panel. So lots of opportunities for you to apply your learning and also think about how to communicate your research findings in the programme. So next slide, please, Mike. A second programme is our Masters in Public Health. So this course is actually run in collaboration with NIHR, which are a leading medical education organisations, part of the Cambridge Education Group, and the curriculum is quite closely aligned with the Faculty of Public Health's Diplomate registration process. So we're making sure our students get a good understanding around public health as well as research. And so this is a fully online course. It's designed to be very flexible and is only available part-time. So it's really designed with kind of busy working professionals in mind. And you will cover as part of that course, if you're interested, in addition to learning around public health research modules, looking at evidence-based approaches to public health, and a professional project where again you are looking at a topic of your choice in depth and applying what you know and what you've learned about research through the course. Next slide, please, Mike. And then our final course is our MSc Clinical Research, which again is run in partnership with NIHR and is fully online available as a part-time course for 2 years. And this is really designed around what you need to know for clinical research and methodologies and covers areas such as management of data, ethics, leadership, and again is quite closely aligned to sort of industry needs around the design and management of clinical trials. So that just gives you a very quick flavour of the programmes we have on offer at Warwick. But as I say, do have a look at all the institutions involved in the Insight programme for the West Midlands. They've all got different courses available with, as I say, different structures and different strengths. So I'll hand back over to Mike to introduce the first of our speakers for our guest panel today. Thanks.
Thank you. So, yeah, we'll have the opportunity for questions at the end. So please do have a think about those. And now it's our first speaker, Alison Miller. Alison, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, that's
You're
fine.
talking about your career. It's probably more appropriate than me doing it.
I also know who I am probably as well. But so yeah, I'm Alison Miller. I'm a clinical specialist, foot and ankle physio at University Hospitals Birmingham. I'm also currently a pre-doctoral fellow within NIHR, and I've got an honorary contract with University of Warwick. Next slide, please. So a bit more about myself. I've been around for quite a long time. So I qualified in 2001. I dabbled a bit in my early years of doing various different things, of a bit of work on research papers, a research assistant, some master's modules, some audits, but I never really had a structure, which this Insight programme would have given me if it was around 25 years ago, but never mind. So I just tried to work my way into a research position. So with the audits, I've taken on the audit lead. I've become a leader for foot and ankle physiotherapy and spoken at national conferences. I participated in the James Lind Alliance priority setting for research for foot and ankle. And then that led me on to thinking what I was going to do next. Next slide, please, Mike. Press again. So why now? I wanted a new challenge. I'd been around for a long time. I was doing my normal day-to-day stuff. And what I really wanted to do is to introduce research into my clinical post, and so that I could improve our outcomes. We see a lot of patients. We don't collect as much data as we should do to know how we should treat them better. Next, please. Oh, wait, come again. Sorry, I don't know. And so I tried to decide what I wanted to achieve, and then I thought I was a bit crazy, but I carried on anyway and decided I would like to get into some research. So just press one more time, please, Mike. So I applied for the Integrated Clinical Academic Internship, which was for a year, and it bought me some time to try and work out what I wanted to do. And actually, Annie on that first day sat down and said, where do you want to be in 7 years? And I was like, oh my goodness, I've no idea. I don't know where I want to be tomorrow. But I started to plan, and following that, I applied for the NIHR pre-doctoral clinical academic fellowship, which is what I'm doing currently. I'm about halfway through, with the view to try and do my doctoral fellowship, for which I've just applied for. It's just gone in last week, so that's where I am at the moment. But you have to realise what you're going to do and how you're going to go about it. So next slide, please, Mike. So you have to plan, and you have to change, and you have to reassess multiple times. There's no you do this and this and it will get you to that place. You have to realise that it isn't always like that. So you need to have a long-term vision. You need to find a mentor or many mentors that can help you along that way, and build your team of supervisors and people that can help you along that journey. You need to join committees, say yes to things so that you get more experience, and you need to find some peer support. And I'm lucky that we've set up a little group together that we meet on a regular basis, that we're all at different stages of research journeys, and so that we can help each other along the way. So be willing to take any opportunities that are given to you. Be willing to change, because things don't always go the way that you want them to go. And you have to be patient, and everyone likes the word resilient, but yeah, patience is a definite importance. Next slide, please, Mike. Conflicts. So there are many conflicts. We have time. Somebody's already mentioned time. I'm sure it'll be mentioned again. Time is always this thing that you try and fit into your life, rather than you've got this amount of time and you need to fit into that, rather than the other way around. So you have a normal job. I have a normal job. I'm a physio, but then I have to fit the other things into it. I have a life. I have a husband and 2 children. Again, I have to try and fit around those things. So planning is really key. You'll hear about Gantt charts, which are pretty pictures that tell you when you're going to do different things, and it's really important to try and get those down so that you can try and stick to those things. But it's also important to not do too many things at once. So it's okay to say no to stuff as well as say yes. And don't be too hard on yourself, because, you know, life is difficult. Next slide, please, Mike. But there is huge benefits to getting into research. It was a new challenge. You have to learn to let things go. So I've had to move away from some of my clinical commitments to be able to go forward with my research goals. But it's had a positive effect on me. It's had a positive effect on my department that I work with, because they've started to get more interested because they can see the benefits of it. It's definitely improving things for my patients and my colleagues. I've got better at networking, although sometimes it's not so much fun, but it's always good to meet new people and find new inspiration. Everyone is so approachable. So I think Mike said, if you've got any questions, contact. People are willing to help you. They will just give time to help you, and just don't be afraid to ask. If they're busy, they will say so, and they will point you in a direction where you could probably get that help. And the huge thing for me was always to improve patient care. Next slide, please, Mike. So going forward, awaiting the doctoral fellowship outcome. I'm going to finish my pre-doctorate fellowship. I'm continuing to work with the team at Warwick. I'm helping support others by offering advice along the journey. And as I've already said, which I think is the biggest thing, it's massively beneficial to the patients that we see and that we serve. And that can only be the biggest thing. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Alison. Are there any specific questions for Alison following that talk? If you've got a minute or two, we can for a quick question now before we move on to our next speaker. No, we'll save them for later then. That's good. Thanks very much, Alison. So our next speaker is Sandra Simpson, and I'm hoping Sandra's been able to join okay, because we were having...
I can see my face, so that's always a good sign, and I can hear you. So
we can see and hear you now too. So that's very reassuring. Thank you for joining us. So Sandra is here today, and I think helps reflect the breadth of the professional backgrounds that people can apply for the Insight programme, and coming from a social care background, I think that's really something special that we offer in our region as well. So yeah, I'll hand over to you now, Sandra.
Okay, thank you. So I think we'll just go to the next slide, please, where I'll just give a brief overview of what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to speak about myself for a little bit, the importance of research and why we need more social workers and social care workers in general involved in research, the pros and cons to the academic role, my positionality and motivation to undertake the academic role, challenges and solutions to undertaking the research as a social worker, and what you can do if you're unsure about undertaking research. Next slide, please. Okay, so just a brief background. So I am a social worker working in adult social care for Coventry City Council. I'm also a research engagement lead for West Midlands Association of Directors of Adult Social Services, also known as ADAS, which I could have said earlier. I'm in year 4 of my professional doctorate, where I'm looking at disabled people subjected to domestic abuse. In particular, I'm looking at how safeguarding policies are enacted on disabled people. I'm using a mosaic approach, which is a creative approach, a multi-method approach too. I'm actually due to find out if I get ethical approval today for phases 1 and 2. So fingers crossed there'll be no issues. I've also been around a few universities studying. And also I'm at the early stages of developing my business, social work for academic, because I believe in academics. Next slide, please. So the importance of research in social work practice and why we need you. So research can provide a platform to hear the views of people who have experienced social work. We can also learn about ourselves through research. Social workers frequently develop creative interventions, yet these lessons aren't formally recorded or analysed. Research can document both successful and unsuccessful practices, helping to improve the profession and the interventions, and obviously so people who access social care have a better experience. Research may provide insight into the real-time impact of policy and legislation on social work practice. Social work academics are now reaching retirement age, leaving a huge gap, lucky them, and that needs filling, and we need to have research-ready practitioners. Social work evidence base is really lagging behind in contrast to our allied sectors such as health. Next slide, please. So just to briefly speak about the academic role, which you can imagine combines the practitioner role with academia. So the pros to undertaking this role is that it can address the current invisibility of the practitioner voice in research. So most of the time, research is undertaken by sometimes social work academics that have not been in practice for some time. And that is not a criticism, and that's not a bad thing either. There is space for all of us. But I do believe that the academic role adds a little bit of a dimension to that. So in the insider-outsider positionality, particularly the insider positionality, it allows us as researchers to understand the actual organisational structures and cultures. So it helps us to navigate, because we're aware of the cultures of the local authorities, we can navigate the systems, especially when trying to access participants, and it just helps with building relationships. And like that goes on to 3, existing relationships with colleagues. It can support research dissemination or provide opportunities to be involved in research. I certainly know from my previous experience that, you know, when you look at snowballing approaches, it's good to know the setup. It's good to know when people are going to be available. When is it good to send an email? I mean, you get an idea when you do work in the local authority when the worst time to send an email and when people are literally just going to delete the email. So this is advantageous, of course. Next slide, please. So the cons to the social work for academic role. So once you've undertaken some research, there is potential bias in your research analysis. There could be potential bias, and you kind of express that anyway from the onset in your work. Most people these days do positionality statements within their work. There could be role conflict, especially if the research results present social workers in a bad light, which can happen, and it's difficult. It is difficult. You may worry about how that's going to be received. You may worry about how the people that you may know who've provided you as that information. So it can be challenging. Similarly, people who access support may not be happy with your findings. It might not be what they expected, and that's a bit of a heavy thing to carry too. And identity issues. So you might question your identity as a social worker and your values, particularly if your findings show that actually the practice that's currently taking place is not conducive to what, you know, your findings, and it's actually quite harmful. So these are the potential cons. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier on about positionality and inspiration. So for me, my positionality, positionality is a way of describing a researcher's social identity background and experience and how this influences the way they approach their research. In essence, for me, my positionality has influenced my journey into research. For instance, I am a survivor and victim of gender-based violence in my adolescence years and also as an adult. One of my first professional roles was working in a refuge. I worked as a support worker where I supported somebody with a learning disability, and I seen the direct impact that learning disability had on keeping that individual safe. So that was something that really stayed with me even as a social worker. I think I went on to work as an independent domestic violence advocate, where I witnessed justice and injustice within the criminal justice system in the specialist domestic violence courts. I then went on to become a social worker, where I can see there is a real need for social workers and social care workers to have more in-depth training around disability-specific abuse. So that is to say that I'm motivated by changing the experiences for people, disabled people who come into contact with adult social care workers, and also to do a better job in social work in general to protect people. So next slide, please. So the challenges and solutions in terms of undertaking research. Next slide. So I'm going to start with challenges. I don't know if you know this song, Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rent, but if you replace romance with research, you'll really come close to the reality. There is literally no research without finance, and and there's no romance without finance. So according to this song, of course. But this is, you know, I think it's important to kind of you know, there's going to be a bit of emphasis on this part going forward in the next slide. So let's go to the next slide, please. So money, money, money. Yeah. So for me, I am a self-funder. So my situation is a bit different from when you are fully funded. So the cost for me to be a researcher, particularly a researcher that's researching disabled people, where there has to be a focus on, there should always be a focus on accessibility, but there is a particular focus on accessibility for me. I have to think about paying for level 6 BSL interpretation. I'm doing justice work, so that would be, you know, remuneration is absolutely important. I need to also ensure that I've you know, that there's accessible documents such as Easy Read. I might even have to commission the Easy Read. And cost to pay consultants, particularly for the early stages for me, phases 1 and 2. There will be a service user group that I'm consulting with. Research tools, could be widget that I might decide to use. Yeah, so there's quite a lot of things in terms of tools, trauma-informed cards. And you've also got the cost to build a research career. So you want to think about the long term. How do you want to build your research career? And that also can come at a price. I mean, attending conferences aren't cheap. Transportation costs, accommodation costs, training costs to specialise in particular research methods. Ignore 4 because I put that in the wrong place. Next slide, please. So money solutions. So if you can apply for fully funded scholarships, do so. Obviously, I know it's been mentioned, but the National Institute for Health and Care Research, the opportunities, I've seen my colleagues go through this, 2 of my colleagues, thankfully, and honestly, it is fantastic. So I really would encourage people to look at those pathways. Student finance do offer student loans. If you're a BASMA member, look out for what they can offer as well. Side hustles, what I'd say. Look at, because you'll get to a point as well that you'll have a lot of knowledge, and that knowledge needs to be shared. So, you know, delivering training and consultancy is a legitimate option too. Be it an invited guest to conferences. Yeah, that will save you a little bit of money. Look out for free conferences. Look out for cheaper research training courses found in the National Centre for Research Methods website. Network. Ask people, where's the money at? Honestly, I've been to network meetings and there are small pots of money that you'll only find out just through talking to particular people. They don't even want to share where you can get that pot of money. They're like, keep it to yourself. But there's this money, and I'm telling you now, it is real. It is real. So do ask. Obviously, you've got the Economic Social Research Council, the Wellcome Trust, and jobs.ac.uk in terms of fellowships and scholarships. But I would say these are you need to look at the context of these. These are for different contexts of research. I think for starting out, definitely look out for the National Institute for Health and Care Research. And like I said, when I say put some prayers up, because yeah, it can be difficult out there if you believe in prayer. Next slide, please. So work-life balance, challenges and solutions. So the key 2 things that stuck out for me when I was reflecting on this was isolation and time. So I'd say in terms of isolation, join communities of practice, networks, join LinkedIn. LinkedIn is absolutely fantastic. You can do, you know, there's so much literature that gets posted on there too. You'll gain so much. attend in-person conferences, involve family and friends in aspects of your work so they're aware of what you're doing too. I think it does make a difference. Accepting that this is a solo pursuit. I think acceptance is sometimes a bit of liberation, really. I chose a part-time doctorate to reduce intensity. The course that I had was the modules that I undertook were sequential, so it wasn't like loads of modules at the same time. So I was able to it kind of helped, really. It wasn't too much pressure at once. I discovered my workplace had a policy allowing 5 days of study leave per year. I do use annual leave for pinch points, and I use sometimes the annual leave purchase scheme for desperate times. And I tend to go with the flow with time management and utilising gaps. Ensure reasonable adjustments are implemented when you start your course. That's really important when it comes to time. And next slide, please. Okay, so if you're wondering why there is a cow on my slide, so was I at the time, but I decided to keep it in. And my partner highlighted to me why there was a cow in there, and it's the co-write mistake that I've got in my slide. I decided not to change it because I think it's a reminder not to take yourself too seriously, because academia can, have you in a certain way and make you feel under a lot of pressure, and it can turn you into a perfectionist, basically, and you end up not getting anything done. You just get stuck in a state of inertia. So I thought the cow was important to me for this presentation, to not take myself too seriously, but how you can be involved in research if you are unsure. Let's go through those points. So unpick what you're unsure about. For example, do you lack confidence? And is that something you can work on with somebody? Take part in studies related to your area of interest. So I was quite interested in abuse, child sexual abuse, and people's experiences of that. And I actually took part in some research years ago. And I think it was really, it was liberating. It was also something that I think inspired me to want to do research, and that research can be done in a kind way and in a respectful way by involving people with lived experience. So number 3 is undertake internal research within the local authority. So you can be a part of evaluations, volunteer, ask. I know it's time consuming, but you do have data experts, and it's all about data these days. So you can, have conversations with people, ask for data, practice interpreting, read the latest research, join lived experiences groups if you will find one that might be suitable for you, and co-write with academics, and write critical reflections for purposes to share knowledge, and for publication. You might be able to do this with some academics too. And next slide. I think that's the end.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was an excellent talk there, really interesting, very engaging as well. Are there any immediate questions for Sandra? Not yet. Okay. Well, we'll save we've got a chance for a Q&A at the end, so we'll definitely be back to ask you some more questions. I think that's a really interesting perspective, and very lucky to hear from someone from the social work and social care background as well. So thank you for joining us. So our next speaker then is Kerry Jones, who's head of R&D at UHCW, and she's going to be talking to us today about the employer's perspective on getting involved in research and giving you some tips to help get your employer on board as well. So over to you, Kerry.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Hopefully I'll be as inspirational as Sandra and Alison, but I'm not betting on it. So I'm Head of Research and Development at University Hospitals Coventry and Warwickshire, and I'm really proud to say that I was a founder member of our Centre for Care Excellence, which is our vehicle that we work closely with Coventry University to help support the clinical academics of the future. Next slide, please. I don't want to put everybody off, but Alison also showed a bumpy, windy road, and I think that was reflected in all of the talks so far. This is not a straightforward career pathway, but that does not mean it's not going to be enjoyable, and there's a lot that you can get out of it. So I'm just going to talk a bit about the challenges we identified in a recent research project. So this was a collaborative across the West Midlands looking at clinical academic careers. And also as part of that, we've done an evaluation of our local support for clinical academics. So I'm going to feed in some of the findings from that. Then I'm going to talk about managing your request, how you talk to managers, and then a bit more about managing your career as you go forwards. Thanks, Mike. So the common issues and themes, and if you read any of the literature around clinical academics, these things tend to come out very strongly. I can see Annie nodding already. So there is still a lack of understanding of clinical academics. We've heard it earlier from Alison, particularly that people don't really know what the role is and what people are trying to do. So we are still, if we're going on this career, we still need to educate people. Service pressures, particularly in the NHS, but I guess everywhere, enough said really. And then of course there's the culture and the climate and the strategy of your individual organisation. Will it be supportive? Does it have an overarching philosophy that research actually leads to better care, which will make improvements? So that is really important. And then there's a little bit about personal views. Managers are human beings with huge pressures on them, and they really do have a lot of influence around decisions that they can make. From the level of, we never had these opportunities because insight is new and exciting, to sounds good, but I'm really not sure, and I actually don't have the confidence to support you. So we really need to think about that wider context. Okay, Mike. So we just looked at the lack of understanding, the pressures, the culture and personal views. But this is one of the themes that has always come through really strongly. It's getting your time released. How are you practically going to do it? Like it says here, even if you've got the money, which the Insight programme will do, how are you going to get released, particularly in a small team? And I really like this quote that says, conversations with managers can be hard because they have to deliver a service at the end of the day. And that is what, not that you're competing with, but that is the context that we all need to understand and try and get through. So what's this about really? Ultimately, it's about communicating. You may find there's a process in your organisation, and any requests for training have to be documented in your PDRs and your performance review, and that can be the first block. Well, was it in your PDR? So the deadline this time is short. If you think it may stumble this time, then you've got a year to put it in your PDR and start the conversation. I would say to anybody in life, but particularly in researchers, you need an elevator pitch. If you Google elevator pitch, there's loads of examples out there, but basically you get in the ground floor of a lift with your manager, you go up 4 stories, and in that time you explain who you are, what the problem is you want to look at, what you think your solution is, you sell the benefits, and then you have the call to action. Shall we have another meeting? How can this work for me? But that's really important. And as you develop through your clinical academic career, I think this was sort of reflected in the presentations, you need to have a story, and you need to be able to articulate that really, really quickly, because we go back to people don't understand it. So getting this bit right is really important. And then always have a formal meeting to discuss this. Shall we go on? So I want you to really do your research, really, really prepare. Do not, never, this drives me mad. People come to me and go, oh, I quite fancy doing this research course. Well, why? Oh, well, I just thought, I know, no. People have got like to make evidence-based decisions. There's a give and a get. Okay, if you get this, what do I get back? So the first thing is to look at your sort of organisational intelligence. I've put a number of things here, Mike, if you want to click on. As I've said before, align with the strategy. And it might not be the big strategic intent of the trust, but it might be, we need to improve our CQC ratings. It might be locally, we've got a big problem with this and that's what we're focusing on. So think it through how it's going to benefit the organisation. Again, highlight your benefits to the service. Will it reduce length of stay? Will it improve safety, improve the patient experience? Are you doing a big move to digital? Can you feed this in? How will it strengthen the evidence? And ultimately, what will that mean for our service users or our patients? And again, it's not just you. You operate in an organisation, you operate in a team. So it's highlighting those benefits. You know, is what you're planning going to address a long-term issue that's really been niggling that team and you want to solve it? How it's going to support your development, but also others. Who will backfill you? Will it give somebody the opportunity to act up or get different skills? And then also the national and local reach of this. You know, you're going to publish nationally, you're going to share this work. It gives your organisation the opportunity to influence at a national level. So I want you to really focus on your influencing skills. And I normally put these into sort of two categories. Firstly, rational. What is your rationale? I would want a written plan, just a page, just what's it going to look like? What are you trying to achieve? A busy manager won't have time to read all the application form and all of these things. They just need to understand what you are trying to do. And then also the practical bit. What will this look like for them? You know, are you never going to be there on a Friday ever again? Or how are you going to make this programme work? We heard earlier at the beginning from Warwick, they've got their NIHR programme, so you can do flexible online modules. That might work better around the service. Are you going to, for example, you've looked at it and you've noticed 2 of the days a week or 3 of the shifts are really difficult to fill. You keep using agency and bank. You offer to change your hours to support the service. They really want to know what it's going to look like, and actually coming with a solution is really, really helpful. And then ultimately, what's going to come out of this? You're going to get a qualification, but what does the patient, the service user, the team, the organisation get? And then there's something about the emotional ask, connecting with the values of the organisation and also with the manager. You know, talking about it's about the patient, the impact, it's about the service, what is the change? Almost to the level of some people in, you know, some managers want to be the early adopter. You know, we could be the first person in this organisation that has an insight post. Is very, very appealing. We could be the first team that is looking at this nationally. Those sort of emotional cues are important to managers as well as the factual stuff. And I think after that, I said something like provide time. Do not expect them to make a very quick decision on this. And some people take longer than others to think these things through. So what approach would I take? I think it's been reflected through all of this that there is a huge amount of external support. You've got the Insight team on this call, you've got people in your own trust. Hopefully your research and development department will help you with your application, and our team actually will do mock interviews and things like that for you, or even we can practice how you might have this conversation with a manager. Speak to your peers and speak to your team. It's really, really helpful if you can go and say, I've spoken to my team and me and so think this, and this is how it could work. People are very supportive. That's a really good conversation to be having. Be clear in what you're trying to achieve and be consistent. So a very structured approach into what you want to do. And again, use we. This is your career, but it's the journey of the team. So it's really important to work with the manager. We can do this, we can improve that, we can change this. And also be prepared. You may get no. You may get, I'm not sure, and you'll feel you're being kicked into the long grass. So be prepared to be flexible. be prepared to compromise. You may have to move your shifts. I've had people, we've got 2 sites, so they've had to go and work across at the other site to accommodate the service need. Be prepared to compromise and have a plan B. It may be not this year, but these programs are ongoing. Think about what your plan B would be. Oh, it's really interesting talking about money. I did my masters. I reduced to 4 days a week to do it, and I paid for it myself, but I could afford to do that. So think about, that may not be an option for you, but think about what your plan B might be. Okay, thanks, Mike. So let's assume you are successful, and I really hope you are, because this is a great career and the impact that you can have can be huge. I want you to practice gratitude. As a manager, there's nothing better than saying, oh, I got on the insight, thank you for all your support, and keeping that conversation going, thanking your team, and reflecting back that this is part of a bigger piece. Again, consistent messaging. Keep stressing the mutual benefits, the value to the team, what you're giving, what you're getting, so that people are really, really clear who you are and where you're going and why this is important to them as much as it is to you. And I would always focus on short-term wins. Can you bring bits of learning back to the team meeting? Can you support some in-house training? How are you going to mentor other people in the team to develop? And be very visual around this. A piece in the Trust newsletter with your manager saying, isn't this marvellous? Poster presentations nationally involving the rest of your team. But branding yourself, the communication is really, really key. We haven't got time to go into that today. And again, I think both of you said earlier, this is a longer term plan. You need a longer term vision, possibly not at your first meeting, but you need to start feeding this in so that people can see you're not just going to come back. This is part of a movement for you and you're going to develop. So finally, I think these are my takeaway points. Collaboration is everything. And this is across your research career. Be aware of others' drivers and work with them. And that's not just your organisation, that's research funders. What are they looking for? How does what you want to research respond to that, and how you can weave that in to get, as we said earlier, to get the money to carry on your career. Focus on what your impact is. That is absolutely critical for any academic. There's more coming up, Mike.
Oh, there is, sorry.
Oh, there you go. And again, this is your career. I think this has been reflected earlier. You need to make your own luck. You need to get involved in committees. You need to push yourself forward, because ultimately you are steering this. Although it might feel you're responding to everybody else. It's difficult. I think we've heard that reflected, and being a pioneer isn't easy. But there are other people out there. There's huge networks of people doing this stuff. So network with them, learn from them, and then support the next generation as they come through. And I'm afraid success is not optional. You are blazing a trail if you go on this programme. So you have a responsibility to make it work, to show the next generation that actually a research career is great for you, great for your patients or service users, and great for an organisation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. That was really inspiring and really clear messages there, I think, and tips that are transferable across settings and organisations. So
I hope so.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you. So we'll now move into an opportunity for some questions, and I will stop sharing the screen so that we can see people in a bit more detail, which has hopefully worked. So Jenny, I think one came in on the text. Do you want to start with that one while people are thinking about their questions?
Yeah, sure, thanks. And to echo thanks to all our speakers, great advice I think we all wish we'd have had perhaps when we were starting out as well. So first question in the chat is for Alison. So it says, I work with UHB as a radiographer. I hold an MSc in medical imaging with one publication with International Journal of Sciences, and I'm currently writing a manuscript for publication of a BSc project. Have a passion for research and would love to do a PhD in medical imaging. So questions are around 1, funding, 2, immigration status on a skilled work visa, and 3, how do I navigate my way while still at UHB? And that's a question from Victor. Alison, do you feel able to pick up on? Yeah,
I'll pick up on some, but some other bits I might not know the answer to, but I'm sure someone else on the call may well do. UHB is good because we've got a clinical academics team. So you can be on their newsletter. There's lots of advice from the clinical academics team. So you can always email me. You'll find me on the email anyway, Victor. It depends where you are in your career as to which bits of funding, because although we've got the Insight programme today, we're talking about there's so many different bits. There's also support for helping you with your writing at UHB. But yeah, if you want to email me, that's fine, and I think it's clinicalacademics@uhb.nhs.uk for the clinical academics team. But you need to, as we've already said already today, you'll need to have this discussion with your manager of what you want to achieve and what you're trying to plan through. So it's having those conversations, as many of us have said already, early with the plan that Kerry's just gone through. It sounds like a perfect way of going forwards. I don't know about the immigration status. Does anyone else know?
I don't, Annie, do you have any knowledge about that?
Well, only for Insight. In relation to Insight, you would have to be considered as a home student. So that means normally that people are here on a worker visa. It's when they've changed their status, which I think at the moment is after 5 years. But what tends to happen is that people don't always understand what their visa is, and people have different types of visa. They may come with a partner, for example, and have a different sort of visa. And usually it is registry at the universities, if you're applying for a course, who have the full information and know what or what not is covered. Now, I say that is for Insight, it's because the funding envelope is only available for home students. But for other potential NIHR awards, that is a discussion with the NIHR to see if you might be eligible for something like the pre-application support fund or other opportunities which might enable you into a career in research. But it is complex around a visa, and I'm not the expert, so you need to get advice from people. Number one, HR in your employer on what your rights are to take study during working, which there are some restrictions in relation to, and also with who may be your future host as a university, if that's the case, or with the NIHR. I think you have to talk to all the experts because it is a legal issue. It is not merely people facilitating or not. So I would take strong advice from everyone and be sure what your visa is and what its limitations are.
Thanks, Annie. I think that's helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Can I just chip in there? I would also say that particularly in what you're doing in medical imaging, it might be that it's a commercial company who might fund a PhD rather than the traditional funding schemes. I know we've had some companies who funded PhDs within medical physics. So it's just about thinking a little bit differently, because it might be NIHR isn't suitable, but there is lots of funding streams out there, really a lot.
Yeah, and I would also say things like digital is a real area in medical imaging that potentially has potential to think differently. I think Kerry's wise words about thinking long term as well. Yes, it might be a barrier now, but it may not be a barrier in 2 years. So you could be spending this time very productively in developing your ideas, getting all your ducks in a row, discussing with your manager what might be, etc., etc. And that's really quite important as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. Can I ask one question? So we've talked a lot about the the challenges and the barriers for starting a research career, and the challenges of getting managerial support, particularly in a health setting. Sandra, could you comment on some of those issues from your social care perspective, and think how we can get more people from a social care background involved in these opportunities?
Yeah, I think one of the key things I would say is engage in research as much as possible within your local authority. And I think if you have an interest, to kind of see how you can get supported and see what is available. So obviously within the region, we are pushing for a more a research culture and capacity. So it's about linking in and what's available at the moment. So do go on the West Midlands ADAS website and see what we're currently, well, hopefully we'll have more, it become more updated, but that is one way to find out. And you can contact me directly if you're interested in undertaking research. But we do have plans in terms of the future in connecting people with other academics. We've got the West Midlands Teaching Partnership, Social Work Teaching Partnership, who are also keen on research. So they often present on webinars and so forth. But I think starting from the beginning, I would say that if you're interested in research, if your principal social worker is also passionate about research too, I would approach them and see what's available, because they will get information from loads of different people about what's going on. They have a lot of oversight. So I would definitely approach your principal social worker to see what is available. But of course, myself as the research engagement lead, do contact me if you do have any interest in research and accessing it, because that's usually quite a barrier as well, accessing journal articles and so forth. All adult social care workers within the West Midlands region do have access to the British Journal of Social Work, so that's something that can also enable you for applications, etc. So yeah, I think
that's
great.
It. Thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful suggestions, Jenny.
I was going to suggest, Sandra, you might want to put the ADAS West Midlands website link in the chat and your contact details. I can see Alison's done it as well for herself.
Yeah, I'll do that
Alison.
now.
Yeah. We're almost at the end of time, but Nanette has put a question in the chat, and Nanette, I can see you on screen. Do you want to come unmute and say your question, or shall I read it? You want me to read it? Yeah, no problem. So let me find it again. So Annette says, I've worked in the NHS for 23 years and I'd love to do a master's, but every time my manager blocked me to grow. So I attend webinars, etc., on my own time, or multitasking work and studying. I'd love to have some support on my application for MSc in research. I already have a mentor, but haven't finished the application yet. So is your question around getting some support from us as a team with your... So Nanette, I think the best thing to do is think about where it is you'd like to study and the course that you're interested in, and you can contact the course directors perhaps to have a chat with them about that, but also the insight leads at the institution that you're interested in. So for example, if that was Warwick, myself and Mike would be happy to have a chat with you about your interests. And Annie, I'm sure if they've got additional questions, they could come to you as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so do approach people at the institution and the course that you're interested in for additional sort of support, and the insight team for support around the insight application. So just to clarify, as we've said, you need to do two applications, one for the NIHR Insight programme, and then for the course and institution that you want to study at as well. Okay, hope that helps.
I just want to come in, Lynette, because I can't help seeing your background, which is wonderful, to say who you are. And it does say research practitioner, which is fabulous. But I don't know if you are a healthcare professional first. So we would need to really think about your qualifications, and if you're registered as a research practitioner, and if you are, that opens more doors. So it's I think let's have a conversation. So email me directly, and also I can put you in touch with, after that conversation, with people in your organisation who you may or may not have been in touch with, who may be helpful to you. Because sometimes it's almost difficult to navigate internally an organisation because they're very big NHS trusts, and you can't always find the right people. So yeah, I'll see if I can help in that way.
Thank you. That's really helpful, and thanks for asking those questions. We need to bring it to a bit of an end today, I'm afraid, as we're already a couple of minutes over. But thanks very much for everyone for engaging in the session and for asking the questions. And of course, thanks very much to all the speakers for their really interesting and inspiring talks today. There's some details there on the screen to give feedback on the session, and also, of course, the details to apply for this year's Insight programme. And if you are going to do it, don't forget to do it quickly, because the deadline's fast approaching.